Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new, hello, my name is Jess, or you can call me Jessica, whatever floats your boat. And yes, I look like I match my headboard and my walls. I promise you guys, it's not my makeup, which by the way, can we just respect, round of applause that I actually have makeup on today. I was feeling myself, I had energy, I may have had too many cups of coffee today. And if you saw like previous videos, you can tell I don't really wear makeup, but you know what? Your girl's serving looks today. And today's video is going to be about, that was such a weird transition. But today's video is going to be about all the books that I've read since January of this year. So it's a total of 7 books. There's 5 hardback physical copies that I have here, and then 2 are audiobooks, which I'll probably put somewhere on the screen to talk about. But yeah, we're gonna start with the very first book that I read in January 2021. Didn't know the year. Okay, so the very first book that I read was none other than Piranesi by Susanna and Clarke. And I don't know if I'm saying Piranesi right, but you know what guys, I always pictured that this was a Z instead, and so that's how I'm gonna say it in this video. So apologies if it's not Piranesi, if it's Piranesi or Piranesi. I don't know why, I just see the S and I sounded like a Z. So anyways, so the book is about basically this guy named Piranesi who lives in this labyrinth or maze, and there's a lot of stairwells, just like great big halls and walls filled with like statues, and this place is infinite. And the cool thing about this place is that there is an ocean, like literally, like think of an ocean inside, just entrapped in these halls. And so Piranesi has obviously lived there for a very, very long time because he now knows the tides, he knows where to fish, he knows where it's hot, he knows when the weather is going to be very dreary, when it's going to rain. Like y'all, there's a whole freaking ecosystem within this like castle. Like in my head it's a castle, just like this big ass castle that you see with like an ocean, just a body of water, and it's alive, and there's fish and there's birds. It's just weird. There's a whole ecosystem inside this like random world, and supposedly that's the thing, this is a world. Now we get into the book. There's basically 2, I would say, main characters. So you have Piranesi, obviously. Sorry if you can hear my dogs, you guys, they're barking at someone outside. And then you have the other. Now the other visits Piranesi every 2 weeks to do research of like some secret that apparently this world has. And you know, you go through the book, and this is not a spoiler, it's literally like right here. But there's another character that comes into play later on, and it kind of just breaks this world apart, or kind of like Piranesi's reality in a way. And okay, so let's just kind of get into how I felt about this book. So, okay, where do I even begin? So I know people are going to come for me because this was such a popular book. But to me, I was very bored with it. I did like the beginning just because it kind of just puts you in the middle of it all. So there is no like once upon a time there was, like, no, like you're just like in a normal day, an everyday thing for Piranesi. And I was honestly low-key confused for like 15 to 20 pages. And then we start seeing these journals basically that Piranesi writes in, and it's just like each chapter is kind of just like a new journal entry. So I really liked that. What I did like the other, because just, well, okay, I didn't like the other because of his character, like what he was doing. I liked him because he had more emotions than like Piranesi. Like Piranesi to me was just like a flat line. Like anything could have happened to him and he would just justify it and then move about his day. Like, oh, this happened? Yeah, I guess I do need a fish today. I do need to eat. Like very just like one, I don't know, just like one type of emotions. And so I couldn't really love him. I couldn't invest in him. And therefore it kind of made it even more slow and boring. Like this took me forever to read, and it's not that big of a book. And so I know a lot of people like it just because of how artsy it feels and how, I don't know. I know people just say they really liked it. They really enjoyed the world building, which there was a lot of world building, specifically with all the statues. Now that was something that I did kind of like, is that there were just infinite amount of statues in every single hall that Piranesi visited, and they were just doing the most randomest things, you know, like farming or like getting food or like sleeping, and you're just like, where are these statues coming from? Because it seems to me like Piranesi is the only one who's living here. and then you have the other who visits him, and like I just, you know, you don't know where the other comes from. I just assumed that he was just somewhere in like one of the halls and he didn't want to be bothered with. And then the story really unfolds and you're just like, wow. So I will say that there were bits and pieces where I was actually like really invested, specifically like kind of towards the end. I was like, whoa, like things are happening way too fast. Like, okay, first of all, the first half of the book was so slow and boring. Like I wanted it to go faster. And then the second half I was like, wait. Like, can we pause? Can we take a break? So I think I rated this on Goodreads a 3. Now I will say, just because I thought it was a little bit boring, it doesn't mean that I wanted to like DNF it or anything like that. So I mean, I really think that you should give this book a try. It was just a very different way of reading for me. Like I typically read a lot of like fantasy, you know, like I don't know, just very like action-packed fantasy or like romances and comedies. And to me, this was just very like an everyday, like regular schmegular type of book. But yeah, so that was Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. Please pick it up. I know that I'm like an outlier when it comes to my opinions because everyone on Goodreads is telling me that I'm wrong. But you know what? It's okay. I have my opinions and you can definitely have yours. Just pick it up. All right, book number 2 is Sex and Vanity by Kwan. Now, as you can see, this cover is very reflective and I think it's so freaking gorgeous. You have a little girl here, or I think that's a little girl. I honestly can't tell. And she's in a like rooftop pool. Like this is so glamorous. My mom got this for Christmas for me and she knows that I love Kwan because if you don't know, he is the author of Crazy Rich Asians, the whole trilogy. And I just think he is so freaking hilarious, especially with his footnotes. And so I'm really glad that we kind of saw that here. Not as much I think as Crazy Rich Asians, but that's totally fine. And so this book, okay, obviously it says Sex and Vanity. There was sex, there was vanity. If you know who he is, there's a bunch of, sorry guys, I got a text message. There's a bunch of glamour and like oohs and ahs. And if you love like the rich, like the rich folks, then you're gonna love this book. So, okay, it kind of follows 3 characters. The main one being Lucy. Lucy is a half Chinese, half white American. And we see her in her young adolescence, young adolescence and then her young adult life. And then you have her Aunt Charlotte, who is just a really snobby bitch. Oh my god, like there are multiple times where I just like wanted to have hands with her. And then you have George, who is a Chinese American boy. And so those are our 3 characters that we're pretty much interested in, right? So we come to basically Lucy. She's going to a friend's wedding in Capri, Italy, which, oh my god guys, like imagine getting married there and like basically having the whole island to yourself. I mean, she really doesn't, but like it feels like it does in the book. And she's visiting, and you know, she's a young adolescent, she's growing up being, you know, half and half, and you know, she's kind of struggling a little bit to figure out who she is and to like live up to the expectations that both of her parents have for her. And her Aunt Charlotte comes with her to this wedding. Now, the first part of the book is basically this whole wedding escapade. You have, I mean, everything you would think of. You have like a beautiful party. You have ocean paradise. You have drinking near the ocean. I mean, it's just so beautiful. I love the way Kevin kind of world builds. Like he does it in like a very funny way, especially with his footnotes, because he puts so many different like artifacts or like words that I have no idea like what they are, and he like, you know, puts a little footnote and he explains it, and I just think it's so funny. But yeah, so we got a lot of that in the first part. And of course, Lucy meets George. They're the same age, and she finds him like very problematic at first. Like she doesn't like him. She thinks he's like too good for, you know, his own shoes, or like, you know, whatever. Like he's kind of snooty, he's snobby. Quite frankly, to me, I didn't get that from the book. He was just like one of those like introverted characters, and I was totally down for it because I'm an introvert. And you know, she, you know, thought about that, and then basically something happens towards the end of the wedding that's like so gossip worthy, and her aunt finds out, and just like whole thing happens, and basically they just like vow to never speak of it again, including George. And then they go on for like the rest of their life for like years, like several years. And now we see Lucy in her young adult phase, and she's like happily engaged to this like really, really rich Texan man whose parents, or his mom really, was like poor, just like middle class, like a normal person, just like everyone that's probably watching this video, just like me, and wishes that you could have his life. Anyways, so yeah, so she marries, you know, she's gonna get married to this man, she's engaged, they're planning, blah blah blah. And I do like that guy's character. Honestly, his name escapes me because it's been a few months since I've read this, but that's besides the point. So that happens, and then of course George ends up back in her life, and you're like, okay, like what's happening? And so yeah, I'm not gonna say too much because I don't want to give too much away. But honestly guys, I really enjoyed this book. I mean, again, Kevin, I really enjoy, I'm saying his name like I actually know him, Kevin Kwan. I just really enjoy his writing. I just find it very hysterical at times, and it's kind of just like lighthearted. I know there were some moments though in this book where I was like, damn, like, okay, Lucy, like, let's get it together, all right? And then like George, like there's like a lot of parts, you know, like I'm emotionally invested into the characters, and like some of the things they do I don't agree with, and so like I'm over here like rooting for them, and then I'm not rooting for them. And I honestly just think you should just pick it up, especially if you like the Crazy Rich Asians series. This is the same world, so you do hear like snippets of characters from that series, and I thoroughly enjoy it. I love when authors do that, where we follow like random characters that are in the same world as other characters that you entirely love. So again, this is Kevin Kwan's Sex and Vanity. Beautiful cover. We're a stan, okay? Okay guys, book number 3 is 8 Perfect Murders by Peter Swanson. So first of all, the cover is not so pretty. Sorry guys, there's a UPS guy coming up to my house, and Hercules is now barking. I hope he cannot see me. Okay, so the UPS man is officially gone, and now I have confidence enough to film again. Oh my gosh, the introvert in me, you guys. So yeah, 8 Perfect Murders by Peter Swanson. So basically we follow the main character named Malcolm Kershaw, aka we just call him Mal, that's his nickname, and he works as a bookstore owner for like a thriller slash mystery store. And we kind of have him as the main narrator, and I kind of feel like we're like that little talking person in the middle of his head. So like we can kind of hear what his inner thoughts are saying, his inner monologue, and I feel like we're just like right next door to it. That's what it feels like to me. And basically, so he's our main character, and you know, he's a regular schmegular guy just like working a bookstore, and then out of nowhere one day an agent calls him, is like, hey, can I come question you about some murder stuff? And he's like, sure. So her name is Agent Mulvey, and she comes into the store and she's like, bro, okay, she actually didn't say bro, but that's gonna be the way I'm gonna make her talk and sound. So she was like, look, so I have these murder cases, and I kind of made a connection to like a murder book, and then I typed it in Google basically, and like up popped a very old blog that you wrote when you first started working here as just like a normal store clerk. And then like I started making connections with like other books that you talked about. She's like, I think that like either low-key you're the killer, or like there's someone out there who found your blog as well, and like for some reason is now doing it. And he was like, back up, okay? So like he was like, you know, so you're telling me that someone, he was like, it's not me, I promise you it's not me, it's like killing these people based off a blog post that I wrote? She's like, yeah. And so basically the whole book is like him going through like this journey of like, okay, like let me try to reread all of these books, let me look at the murder cases, let me try and like compare the two, see if I'm making any connections. And then also like some random crap happens, and honestly like I was invested. Like I know I wrote maybe like a 3 on Goodreads, or like gave it a 3, but looking back on it guys, I really think that I should probably rate this higher, especially for like a murder mystery slash thriller book. I haven't, honestly guys, like this isn't my like cup of tea, like that type of genre, but I was feeling it, and I haven't read one in like over a year I think. And so without me kind of like guessing the ending, like I was just like honestly looking at the words, like not even trying to get my brain to even think about stuff like that. There was so many plot twists. This is definitely a book where you don't trust the narrator. Hate to break it to you, Mal, but I don't trust you, which made me love him more as a character. So like at first I didn't think I was going to like Mal, and then there is one particular scene very early on where he like switched it up 2 gears, and I was like, bro, okay, like now I'm fully invested in you. I also can't trust you. You're that type of person. And I did like Agent Mulvey, though, like she was kind of like a flatline character. Until the end, where she was just kind of dropped off. I think Peter Swanson didn't really know what to do with her character towards the end, or like he needed someone for Mal to kind of rely on. So I didn't really like that. I thought Agent Mulvey was going to be really heavily invested into like the murders, and she really wasn't. And there was like this one point in the book where we were talking about Agent Mulvey and like something sus, and then nothing really happened. And so I was like, okay. Also, the way the book ended, I'm kind of satisfied and I'm not satisfied. So of course we end up, you know, finding who done it, and I was just like, why that person? You know, like, why, what's going on? And then of course we have Mal, the unreliable narrator. He throws another plot twist, and then I'm like, okay, now I like it. Now it makes sense. And then he threw another plot twist, and I'm like, oh my god. So this is why I think I'm gonna write, no, I'm gonna keep it a 4. No, wait, am I gonna do this? No, I'm gonna keep it a 3 and then make it a 4. I think. I don't know. I might redo my Goodreads, because now I'm thinking about it, I actually really like this book. And the fact that I remember so much, and it's mid-April, and I read this like in January, that says a lot. So yeah, I think I read this in January. I don't know, you guys. But anyways, this was a great book. I highly recommend you pick it up. And if you go to Barnes & Noble, maybe they still have this 50% off sticker. I didn't get to utilize that, but yeah, maybe you'll get another book half off. So of course, I did read The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Pinner. I'm actually not going to go into this book, but I wanted to like just show it to you guys, just because it is technically a book that I read. But I did do a book review over this. So if you're really interested in figuring this one out, go ahead and jump to that video. I'll probably link it actually somewhere here. Okay guys, so the last physical book that I read, which I just finished last night, was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. Now this cover, I kind of like it just because it shimmers, but I mean, I don't know, I rated a 6. I think this is kind of like in the same category as A Perfect Murders when it comes to the cover of it. But okay guys, so let's get into the book, shall we? I'm not gonna lie, I loved this book and I hated this book, and I just, where do I even begin? Okay, so the things that I loved about this book, it kind of goes between the past and the present, especially of Addie. So for those of you who don't know, Addie basically made a deal with a god that only comes out at night. We're gonna call him Luke. And she basically was like, look, I want to travel. I want to experience the world. I don't want to be tied down to my village. And he's like, gotcha. But you know, with those type of gods who only come out at night, who you should not pray to, basically tricked her and was like, yeah, you're gonna get that, but you're basically gonna be invisible to to people, which means like she's not actually invisible, you guys. It's just like if someone closes the door on her, or if they, you know, turn a corner, they immediately forget her. So like she's just super forgettable, and she can't leave a mark on the world. Like she can't make music, she can't write her name, she can't even say her name. And so she's just kind of walking this earth with no one remembering her except for the god that she made a deal with, Luke. So okay, so now that you know kind of the gist of it, the first part of the book was basically, okay, there's actually 7 parts, and it's like, I kind of like how she made it into 7 parts, but like really I would say there's 3 main parts. There's when Addie was just like a young adolescent going through her current state of life, okay? We see a lot of terrible things and we see a lot of great things. She meets a lot of great people, but she also meets a lot of terrible people along the way. She finds out kind of the ins and outs of what she can and what she cannot do. The middle part, we meet Henry, who is this lovable guy who just kind of basically exist in the world, I would say. And then he meets Addie, and of course like things change because this is a romance. And then the last part kind of just threw me for a loop, and the last part was honestly like my favorite part. I thought Henry's introduction scene I really loved, but I actually loved like the last 100 pages of this book. So the things that I do love the past and present. I like how we got to see the present with Addie and then the past with Addie, some with Henry. I definitely loved the scenes with Luke, the god. I stan him, okay? Like, I know a lot of people don't like him, but I stan him. He just had so much life and like so much presence, and I was like, yes, he honestly kind of reminded me of Damon from the Vampire Diaries. Like, when I picture him, that's who I was. Yeah, that was him in my mind. And kind of Addie was Elena. This is basically the Vampire Diaries, you guys. But yeah, one of the main things I didn't like is that I think it was just too long in the middle. Like, there was a lot of redundancies that I thought happened with Addie. Like, we were just seeing her regular schmegular day, and that wasn't bad. Maybe like a couple of chapters, but then we have like hundreds of pages, I feel like, where it's just solely dedicated to Addie and how she goes about life. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, no one remembers you. Like, let's just move on to like the romance and like the heat of it all, and like let's get more Luke involved. And so that kind of made me put the book down quite a lot. I mean, this book should have taken me like a day or two, and it took me weeks, you guys, to finish this. And then the last 100 pages, I zoomed by them, oh my god, so quickly because of Luke. Like, oh my god, freaking Luke is the best character for me in this. And I know that he's obviously like a bad god, but like, I don't care. He was amazing. And the way the book ends, honestly, I'm somewhat satisfied, and then I'm not satisfied, especially with what Addie does or says at the very ending. I'm like, okay, I see you. But you know what, overall, I think this book deserves the hype that it's been getting. I mean, this book is freaking everywhere. I know it came out in 2020, but like I said in my previous video, this book is freaking everywhere. It's all over Barnes & Noble. It's all over Book People in Austin. Like, I cannot go to a place or to someone's booktube channel without them mentioning this. So I do think it gets the hype it deserves. I do think it should be rated highly. I think I rated this a 3, but the only reason I rated it a 3 was because I found many parts in the middle too long, and that is kind of what made my scoring a little bit low. If it wasn't for that, you guys, this book would have been a 4. But now I'm kind of interested. I want to have a book in Luke's perspective, or just like a book with Luke in it, just because I love him. We stan him. He just reminds me of Damon so much from the Vampire Diaries, with the way he thinks about things and the way he says things to Addie. I'm like, yes. Okay guys, so I had to take a miniature break just because it started hailing outside. And I mean, those hail balls were like this big. I've never seen anything like that in my life here. That was just very interesting, and it got really freaking loud on the roof, and so I don't think y'all guys would have been able to hear me. But anyways, let's get back into it. So we're gonna start with the first audiobook that I listened to, and that was One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. Now, this is a series, and I freaking love this. I rated this a 4 stars on Goodreads, and pretty much for good reason. So this reminded me of Pretty Little Liars meets Gossip Girl. So it follows multiple perspectives. So there are multiple main characters, and they all basically get detention with this guy named Simon. And during detention, Simon takes a drink of water and basically has an allergy attack and ends up dying. And it turns out that this attack wasn't by accident. Like, it was actually premeditative murder, and so someone actually wanted Simon to die. And you're like, okay, like clearly it had to have been one of the main characters, so that's why it's called One of Us is Lying. And so basically you go have this whole journey of like trying to figure out, okay, who killed Simon. And it's basically so interesting because you're seeing the different perspectives of each of the main suspects. And there's a love interest, and I'm loving it. And then you end up loving all the characters, and you're like, okay, how can one of these characters be the killer? And I mean, there's just like a huge plot twist at the end that I was not expecting, you guys. Like, I wasn't trying to solve the ending by no means. Like, I was just trying to straight just read it and then just let the book wow me, and it wowed me. Oh my freaking god. Like, I was just like, wait, what? Like, what is happening towards the end of the book? Like, it all just kind of, you know, put the pieces all together, and I loved it. The romance, chef's kiss. I mean, the murderer did not expect it at all. And so I don't know, like, I feel like it was just a page gripper, you know, like you couldn't stop. Like, each freaking chapter just ended on like a cliffhanger, and I'm like, oh my god, like I love cliffhanger books because it makes it more fast-paced. And Karen McManus, like, she did her thing. And on top of that, she made another book, which is the last audiobook and the last book that I'm going to be talking about in this video. So the next book that I'm going to be talking about is One of Us Is Next by Karen McManus, and this is the last book in the series. And I will admit, it's basically the same thing. So it kind of follows, again, multiple students at Bayview High School, one of them being one of the main characters of One of Us Is Lying's younger sisters. And instead of it being like someone died and then the whole book revolves around it, it's based off a truth and dare game that someone is just playing, a freaking psycho who wants to play truth or dare. But like the truths are legit, the most juiciest gossip. The dares aren't so that, like, they're not that bad. And so basically we just find out through the truth game a lot of hidden secrets with the main characters and their families, and it's so freaking crazy. Like all the drama that happens in the back, you know, like what's happening behind closed doors, it's wild. And so Karen McManus did not like leave my expectations, you know, super low or anything. Like they were pretty high. I will admit that I did love book number 1 the best, and I think the only reason why is because I was so engrossed into those characters and the relationship that I felt like I couldn't be as close with the characters in this book. And that's just like a personal perspective. I honestly think that you'll love both if you give it a chance. But yeah, I mean, it was just a freaking amazing book. I finished it in like a day or two, super fast paced. If this is kind of your first time doing audiobooks, I really think that you should start with this. I know the multiple perspectives might intimidate some people, but trust me, like I was able to really pick up on it. Even if I forgot like who was speaking the next chapter, like it's easy to tell because all the characters have very different perspectives, and like the way they talk, and like just like the overall vibe of how their chapters are, you could just tell who's speaking. And so yeah, you guys, so those are all the books that I have read so far. I honestly am so proud of myself that I've read 7 books since January. I mean, that is like a huge plus for me because I feel like I'm a slow reader, first of all, and then I have like such a busy work life and then just like social life in general. But I'm just so proud of myself. I'm actually like really sticking to it, and I'm reading another book which I'll probably do a book review on once I finish it. I'm thinking, I don't know, I forget what I have planned for next week. I have a book that tells me, you know, okay, what am I planning? But I really like doing like single individual book reviews. But I'm also thinking of doing book vlogs. I've been really liking book vlogs lately on YouTube, and so maybe I'll vlog what I'm currently reading. I'm only on chapter 2, so I don't think it'd be that bad if I restarted the book. It's either that or the next book that I read, which I think is going to be Bunny by Mona Awad. That one might be a book vlog, I'm thinking. But anyways, you guys, I really hope that you enjoyed this. I hope you found a book that you're gonna love. I know I'm kind of like a harsh critic, like just a little bit with my ratings, but I just want to say that all of these books are really like hands down good, except for Piranesi, but that's just my personal opinion. I know that I'm like the outlier, so go check it out for yourself. But yeah, guys, without further ado, I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you are. I know I am. I'm gonna continue reading my new book. Bye, guys.